Pleased to bring in right now for more analysis former CIA and analyst Fred Fleitz. He served as the deputy assistant to President Trump and the chief of staff for the National Security Council. Fred is now the vice chair at the America First Policy Institute. And also with us, Amazon #1 bestselling author of The Upside of Oil and Gas Investing, Jay Young, the founder and CEO of King Operating Corporation. Gentlemen, a pleasure to have you both. So we're hearing some optimism, and obviously the message coming in from the administration is this will be corrected. But of course, Jay, you know, it's a midterm 6 months from today, and Americans who are paying the prices feel this. Talk to us about how soon relief can come, especially when we have the new movement today to try to guide these ships through the strait.
Yeah, it's going to take time, even if it does come down very much whatsoever, because, I mean, we weren't drilling for oil before the war. And so we quit drilling as much in the United States for oil and gas before the war. So with the war, you know, putting that on top of it, you're seeing a lot of less disruption, and you're going to see a lot less disruption going into. We're like 1 billion barrels of oil right now that is not on the market compared to what it was a few months ago. So we're going to see long term. We're going to see higher oil prices. This is like a tax that nobody wanted for the United States citizens, because you don't like it, but you're going to have to pay it anyway with these higher prices. And it's just not going to get any better anytime soon, even if we had everything was going at 100% tomorrow.
That's not the message, obviously. That's optimistic, is what we're hearing. But we do know there is some hope. There's still, obviously, diplomacy is still happening, Fred. We should also mention that there is, another proposal back and forth with Iran and the U.S. delegation. But talk to us about the move that, you had the administration, Fred, releasing millions of barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. That's part of the international effort, announcing 172 million barrel release in March, 17.5 million barrels released since mid-March alone. So you have the United States, you have the President Trump saying, hold on a bit longer. But with the political fallout, and to Jay's point right here, saying it's not going to get better anytime soon, what would be your advice to President Trump right now, who's handling obviously a global conflict, but some upsetting prices here back in the States?
Well, President Trump is right in saying that there's going to be some short-term pain to make sure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon. But frankly, the higher gas prices are simply too tempting a target for the Democrats to grandstand on. They're not going to admit the fact that gas prices were actually higher during the Biden administration when he released petroleum from the Strategic Reserve for no reason other than electoral reasons. Basically, Trump has to do things to reduce fear and volatility. And what he's doing, the Strait of Hormuz right now, I think is going to help that. There's not a supply problem for the U.S., but since it's a global market, when there's shortages elsewhere, it drives up gas and oil prices worldwide. Things have to be calmed down. The Strait has to be stabilized. I think it will be a while to lower prices, but I think they will lower by the fall if what the president's doing right now is successful in the Strait.
All right, let's talk about the increase in Venezuelan oil exports. They rose 14% to 1.2 million barrels per day in April. Obviously, people are looking at that potentially as somewhat of a positive note there. But Jay, talk to us. I mean, I think what Fred is saying is pretty clear as well, that there is a sense that we're in this and we are going to see some disruption. I mean, how much can that Venezuelan oil help? And the obviously releasing of strategic petroleum reserves under Biden was under much different circumstances.
Yeah, that's a good question. And a good thought is Venezuelan oil, because we need it. And President Trump did a great job, several months ago when we went in and took over Venezuela. They have a lot of oil, 300 billion barrels of oil in reserves, which is far more than what the United States has. So we need that oil. And we're right now 1 million barrels is coming up to the Mississippi and the refineries there. It's not as good an oil, but it's helping. And so that's what we need, is that help. And we need to make sure that we can, we have 20 million barrels as our appetite every day. And we need to make sure that we can find that oil. How do we find that oil without the Mideast? And how do we take ourselves away from this? And we're finding those ways right now. And there's a lot of companies right now that are rethinking their decisions back a few months ago when President Trump said, hey, I need And we need 50 to 100 billion dollars to go into Venezuela and to help out the, the infrastructure there to make Venezuela a big producer again. We need 10 million barrels a day, 5 to 10 million barrels a day out of Venezuela. It can definitely do it. It just takes time and money. And I know there's a lot of big companies right now that are rethinking that decision.
I just want to get to the breaking news right now, Fred. Militarily, we have under a minute ago. This is coming in from a major general in Iran telling their state broadcaster, right, their propaganda media, that they're warning any military foreign force, especially aggressive U.S. military that intends to approach or enter the Strait of Hormuz, will be targeted. So we have the back and forth, but the U.S. Navy is there and they will be escorting. What do you make of this day one here? We're in this new sort of phase in the Strait.
Yes, I heard that, and it caused oil prices to immediately rise. It's what happens when volatility increases. There's going to be a showdown in the Strait of Hormuz. We know that this was coming. This is the way the president's planning on dealing with it, but I believe that if the Iranians carry through in their threat to shipping in the Strait of Hormuz, hostilities will resume and there will be very intensive airstrikes in the region near the Strait, and I think on other targets throughout Iran. Trump is not going to stand for this. Hopefully it will not result in an increase in military hostilities, but it looks like that's where the Iranians are going.
It certainly does, at least at this hour. Gentlemen, appreciate your analysis as we look at what happens next. Fred and Jay, hope to see you back here soon. Thank you so much.